say it.
There's these you can borrow in there on the television set, draped over. Good evening. It's 7 o'clock here in the northeast of the United States. This is the Tibet Center, Kunchab Tarduling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located here in South Orange, New Jersey, and in New York City every Monday night. So we're bi-coastal to the Hudson River anyway. It's twice weekly presentation of the Dharma, as we usually do. All the prayers we say are on the Tibet Center website in the FAQ section. If there's anyone who has passed away recently, or not so recently, who you wish us to pray for them, place their names in the chat box now. So at the end of the class, when we do the Sutra of the Three Jewels, Recollection of Three Jewels, we'll have their names announced. We'll start. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious three precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West, for all the people living there together with their near ones, who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them. May all conditions adverse to their practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the Victorious One's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses and interference in adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. Should I move over there? No, good? Okay. Our cameraman and everything else. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi, which examines the Dharmas, called profound illumination, and at the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the five skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus, all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge, and since there is no obscurity of mind, they have no fear, they transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future, by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, This is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the bodhisattva mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Sharaputra and Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praised the words of the Blessed One. And now, refuge in Bodhisattva vow, it's called generating bodhicitta. And there'll be a lot to say about these three verses. We have commentary on them from His Holiness. We'll probably lead off with that. We say the verses 3 times, by the way. Sorry, those who listening in Europe or so, it's 3. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Inspired by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind intent on full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So as we traditionally do, we say one round of Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, who personifies great compassion. Take a minute and a half. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tonight's menu. We have the chicken catastrophe. No, we have little secular ethics, 2 books, Many Ways to Nirvana, and in here there's some questions asked of His Holiness. They're very interesting. You can relax, no heavy thinking, but very meaningful. And then we'll go to another secular ethics books, The Power of Compassion. And then we'll go with our Advice on Dying book. We'll follow its sequence, and its sequence now leads us to a discussion of emptiness by His Holiness. And he just stops talking about the channels and drops, and then none in her existence. And if we want, we can also get more nerding out with Thrango Rinpoche, but I don't think we'll have time, but it's here in case. Feel free to comment, feel free to protest here. We allow protests at the Tibet Center. First question from page 142 of this book called Many Ways to Nirvana, edited by Renuka Singh, or however you pronounce it. The first question is, why is the power of evil greater than that of goodness? And will you answer that? Why? And he says, I don't think this is true. And he gives you a reason. The power of evil is sometimes very powerful, but only temporarily. In the long run, I don't think it is more powerful than goodness. Short, to the point, like a good, vaccination or something. I don't know. Next question from you. Ego and self-respect are two conflicting emotions inherent in human nature. How can the common man or common woman extract the positive values from these two feelings using equanimity? So we have ego and self-respect. And His Holiness answers, first, I don't think ego and self-respect, I think of ego and self-respect as being necessarily contradictory terms. Of course, that's what you mean by that, but he's trying to zero in on a sharp meaning. When we think of developing positive qualities like bodhicitta or altruism, we realize that we need a strong sense of ego and self-respect. I suppose we could say there are two kinds of ego. One is positive. An example of this is when you develop your ego thinking that you must achieve enlightenment to be able to benefit all suffering sentient beings. That's one. There's some sort of centrality working there that I'm going to do. It's my job. One of my favorite prayers is, as long as space remains, I will remain. Here, you need a strong sense of I, a strong ego in order to be useful to others. But the negative ego is the extreme self-centered I. That's the negative one. You're not thinking of other people. You're just moi, and the hell with you. Right for me, and you know what, to you. That ego leads to the harm and exploitation of others. So that's the difference, and we got to do a sort of sort in our minds to sharpen up what these things mean. It's the meaning you carry. It's not just a word. He has a big ego. Yeah, well, if it's used for the right thing. But if his ego thinks it's inherently existent, the ego has a big problem. It's not in sync with reality. So there is a positive sense of self that you can carry around with you. Who is the creator? Who created the creator and why? So who's the creator? Who created that person and why? And he says, for Buddhists, that's the problem. How did a creator occur? That is why Buddhists do not accept the creator. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, we respect the concept and its importance to others. Very nice way of saying it. What a diplomat. Why isn't he in the UN? He did get the Nobel Peace Prize. Eat your heart out. Next question, some Weisenheimer in the audience. I think these questions are all from Indian audiences, I think students. So if you do not, they always ask him, said, Your Holiness, they said, His Holiness, they're talking to, watch those videos where the Indian people are asking him questions. They never call him Your Holiness, they say, His Holiness. So I guess it's proper speech in Indian English, I don't know. Maybe. Next question, if you do not develop attachment, how will relationships grow? Friendship and attachment are different things, he said. One of my friends, a Chilean nuclear scientist, once told me that when you engage in any scientific field of study and analysis, you must remain very, it's a tiny book, very objective. You should be completely engaged in analysis, but at the same time you should be detached. This applies here as well. So if you're, especially, I guess, relationships that are going to carry on, marriage and stuff like that, or a business relationship, something where you need each other, it's long term, you've got to be very careful and be objective. Here's something else, another question. There's a minor question here. What is the most important thing we could do to attain world peace and tolerance? And he says, as a Nobel laureate, I think achieving world peace will take time. It must begin at the most basic levels, with individuals and with families, and grow from there. No one challenges that statement? Okay. Passed into law at the Tibet Center. How can we differentiate between idiot compassion and generosity? Idiot compassion was a term that I remember Trungpa used in some of his speeches. And then one time someone put this to his own, he says, how could compassionate be idiotic? We know what Trungpa meant. He meant to the idiot, yeah, I'm going to be compassionate, not investigating, just going off on what their definition of compassion is and all that, and not, so that you may call idiot compassion. So the question is not clear, His Holiness. What is meant by idiot compassion? And then the questioner responds, Your Holiness, it means being compassionate blindly, without intention. Oh, so His Holiness, so actually idiot compassion is not compassion at all. So when you parse out compassion, it means a lot. It's been examined. It's not empathy or pity. It's close. It leads around. It's in the neighborhood. But compassion, you're going to take it upon yourself to get rid of the suffering. That's the definition in this presentation of Buddhism. So, what is your message for politicians of the world? Now, this one's a real stretch, his answer. Be truthful, be honest. Yeah, well, that'll happen. Thank you. Yes. Can a common man or woman with family responsibilities achieve nirvana or Buddhahood? Oh, yes, no question about it. You don't have to be in robes. No question about it. Remember, he told Mary, I know he told that to several mothers when she was going to be a mother. That is practice. What do you? So I can't come anymore. Here's a minor question. How can we find true happiness? Costco, Amazon? No. From the Buddhist point of view, His Holiness says, the highest form of peace is true cessation or nirvana. Nirvana, cessation of trouble. Beyond sorrow is the definition in Tibetan Buddhism of nirvana. No. Doesn't say fully enlightened. You're out of samsara, that's all it is. That state of true cessation is not a fleeting mental experience. Once you achieve it, you gain long-lasting, stable peace and happiness. Yes, you may not be a full Buddha, but you're out of samsara, that's it. You just, if you're not in the bodhisattva path, you'll be put there by Buddhas will come and rouse you out of your complacent peace. But how can Buddhists help the Tibetan cause in India and in the West? And he goes off a very political answer. Today, among Chinese, there is growing interest in Dharma in general, and in Tibetan Buddhism in particular. In the long run, this is a very positive factor for Tibetan issues. So we must make clear what the Tibetan Buddhist tradition actually is. It is the pure tradition of Nalandas, nothing Tibetan originally. Original Tibetan was the local shamanistic thing. You're cold? No, because you can sit over here, over there. We've got plenty of room tonight. We must make clear it's Nalanda. Many individuals are aware that Nalanda is a center of learning, a place for the development of intellectual traditions. Unfortunately, Tibetan Buddhism is sometimes presented in its superficial aspects, with masks and countless rituals. This was a big problem in the early days of Tibetan Buddhism before all these, in the United States, I'm talking my limited view, all these books came out showing how sophisticated this is, and it was all like exotic this and that, and they wanted to hear the monks chant, not even knowing what they were chanting, and people came in on that angle. Not firm ground to start a practice. In this, I think there is a real danger of misunderstanding Buddha Dharma. If we clearly explain that the Tibetan tradition is a continuity of the pure Nalanda tradition, misconceptions will not arise. So we have the equipment to do that now, all these instructions and texts and everything. Okay. Who can serve beings better, a 10th ground bodhisattva or a Buddha? Thing. The bodhisattva path is 1, 2, 3, starting with when you achieve emptiness directly. You're a noble person, then you're no longer normal. And then you go up through 10 bhumis or grounds, whatever. And what you're getting rid of at that point is the imprints of the afflictions. You got rid of the afflictions. but you're still seeing inherent existence. You're not believing in it, but you still see it, and the mind is framed that way. So you've blocked omniscience. The first through the ninth, 10th ground, you're getting rid of blocks to omniscience. You turn to a Buddha, you're omniscient. The definition of omniscient is a simultaneous and direct knowledge of all phenomena and their mode of being. You see everything at once, all phenomena, and how it is, whether empty or not. That's an appearance, that's its true nature, things like that. That's Jeffrey Hopkins' definition from Meditation on Emptiness. It's not Jeffrey Hopkins, it's from a Tibetan source, I'm sure, because Chungla liked him because he said that he listens to the lamas and writes down what they say. He didn't embellish with his own. So who can serve beings better, 10th ground Bodhisattva or Buddha? And His Holiness answers very nicely. The question has some element of silliness. If a Bodhisattva on the 10th ground has a level of capacity that would allow a direct comparison with the Buddha, the very question of becoming enlightened does not arise. Well, what's the difference? So what? However, it is said that a Bodhisattva on the 10th ground has achieved a level on which he can, or she can, serve sentient beings in a manner quite comparable to the state of Buddhahood. Compared to Bodhisattvas on the first 9 grounds, a Bodhisattva on the 10th ground is at the highest level and is called a Bodhisattva Bhumi. After this is a stage of achievement of enlightenment. No more learning. Sometimes you're in the 5, where they categorize the path in 5 parts. And special respect is shown to this Bodhisattva level. Sometimes even the name, the Bhumi of the Buddha, is given. Okay. Your Holiness, when people fall sick, they undergo tremendous shock and lose their equanimity. We are interested to know what His Holiness experienced when he was unwell. I guess some of you know this story. A bladder attack out in Bihar, and he had to be driven to the hospital. So he answers, I was in Bihar, one of the poorest states. That's where Bodh Gaya is, by the way. So while I was passing through Nalanda, Rajgir, Bodh Gaya, and Patna, I saw many poor people. He's in a car, especially children and old people, many of whom were very sick. It seemed no one was taking care of them. In a hotel in Patna, I became ill and experienced extreme pain. But mentally, I began reflecting on the poor people I had seen earlier, especially the children. Somehow, my mind was diverted from my own pain. That's an example of practicing compassion and having a sense of caring for others that benefits oneself immensely. It's a big point. One's own pain is somehow forgotten. Due to the intensity of your compassion, I would imagine. Normally, when there is a gathering of Buddhists, we recite 3 verses, and here we go, for the generation of bodhicitta, and reflects on their meaning. That's what we say, with the wish to free all beings, that's serious. So we'll get a little tutorial on it now. The first verse refers to taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Okay, we got that. I'll always go until I'm enlightened. The second verse refers to generating bodhicitta or altruism. And the third refers to strengthening and enhancing the bodhisattva practices. Normally, when I confer a short ceremony for the development of bodhicitta, I base it on these verses. You're taking the bodhisattva vow with him by means of these verses that you repeat after him or you understand. You should visualize, first of all, that while in the presence of a tanka or an image of the Buddha, you're in the actual presence of the Buddha Shakyamuni. That's important. And there's reasons for that. It's not just your imagination or whatever. And that's serious. You take it seriously. I'm in Buddha's presence. Things happen. You're getting live transmission, so they say. Then, in the display of the other tankas representing the 6 ornaments, things they give and stuff, and the 2 supremes, I don't know what the 2 supremes are. You imagine that you are seeing the 8 great spiritual masters of Nalanda. Imagine that these are not just images or tankas, but mean the actual presence of these masters. We always do that. We do Tara on Saturday. Tara's here. And many reasons. Tara's a Buddha. They know what we're doing. They have the ability to come here and listen. They want to help us. And they know how to help us. So that's something that you should have faith in and confidence, and that benefits you. Imagine from the presence of Buddha and these great highly accomplished masters, you are taking refuge, generating bodhicitta for the benefit of all suffering sentient beings. For those of you belonging to other traditions, you can reflect on the teacher of your faith. He said that before. You could think Jesus Christ, if you like. Recite these verses 3 times. I referred to them earlier, and that's just the 3 verses that we say. So this was done in Talkatora Indoor Stadium in India in 2003. That's where these questions come from. It was a while ago. I can't believe it's 23 years ago. I think I'm around too long. So that's this section of our little Many Ways to Nirvana. Nice little book to give someone. It falls apart though, it wasn't printed too nicely. The librarian in me, the influence of the librarian from my wife comes out of you. The Power of Compassion, brought to you by PSE&G. I'm picking it up on page 66. This is one of his earliest secular ethics books, translated nicely by Thupten Jinpa. Originally published in England in 1995. So it was copyrighted then. So I guess 95. Jinpa was finished with Cambridge, I guess, but maybe not. He's a PhD besides being a Lampa Geshe, so he's bright. Page 66. He's talking about humanity as a whole. We're social animals. That was the lead into this. By nature, especially as a human being, my interests are not independent of others. He's showing you the interconnection of beings. There's nothing heavy here about emptiness or that. Obliquely, it is about emptiness, but directly, he's prepping you to understand emptiness, because emptiness is dependency. My happiness depends on others' happiness. So we're not independent. Our interests are not independent of others. I want this, I want that. Doesn't mean you're independent of others. And you're blocking them either. No. There's an automatic contingency among all of us. My happiness depends on others' happiness. So when I see happy people, automatically I also feel a little bit happier than when I see people in a difficult situation. So there's live interaction all the time. And on many deep levels too, which some texts go into. For example, when we see pictures on television which show people starving in Somalia, oh, Somalia, this was 95, so that's why I gave the date, including old people and young children, then we automatically feel sad, regardless of whether that sadness can lead to some kind of act of help or not. And we don't know these people at all. We're seeing them on TV. We didn't go to their graduation or whatever. I was invited, but I couldn't make it. So he's saying there's something there that's going on, something live. Moreover, in our daily lives, we are now utilizing many good facilities, including things like air-conditioned houses or heated houses. All these things or facilities became possible, not because of ourselves, but because of many other people's direct or indirect involvement, of course. But we don't open to that idea much. We say, well, I paid for this, I did this. But it's there by other people's work, And how did you get your salary? You depended on an organization someone found or whatever. Again, or you're selling something to someone, they help. That's the way it is. So it's trying to open your mind up to the possibility that you are not an isolated thing. You are connected. Isolated thing could say inherently existent, not independent. Maybe. So he's underlying us, giving emptiness indirectly, underneath. Because emptiness is dependent arising on different levels. All these things are possible not because of ourselves, because of the many people's direct or indirect involvement. Everything comes together. It is impossible to return to the way of life of a few centuries ago when we depended on people. We depended on simple instruments, not all these machines. It is very clear to us that the facilities that we are enjoying now are the products of the activities of many people. In 24 hours, you sleep on a bed. Many people have been involved in that, making the bed, and in the preparation of your food, too, especially for the non-vegetarian. Yeah, non-vegetarian is eating other people, other beings. Fame is definitely a product of other people. How could you be famous without other people? Hello? Maybe somebody's psychotic in their mind, they're very famous. I don't know. Without the presence of other people, the concept of fame would not even make sense. Also, the interest of Europe depends on America's interest, and Western Europe's interest depends on the Eastern European economic situation. Each continent is heavily dependent on the others. That is the reality. Too bad a lot of leaders don't grasp that, but that's the reality. And unless you work at it, we have a default position that doesn't see things like that, doesn't see connection. Thus, many of the things that we desire, such as wealth, fame, and so forth, could not come into being without the active or indirect participation and cooperation of many other people. It's a good way to think of it. Chasing fame, chasing this or that. Therefore, since we all have an equal right to be happy, and since we are all linked to one another, no matter how important an individual is, logically the interest of the other 5 billion people on the planet, it's 7 now, Your Holiness. So, in 30 years, that's where we went. 2
Almost
billion.
8.
It's 8.
It's almost.
Almost so. Wow. Yeah, well, it's not 5, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Who's counting? I don't know. Wait a minute. I get 8. By thinking along these lines, you could eventually develop a sense of global responsibility. Modern environmental problems, such as the depletion of the ozone layer, also clearly show us the need for world cooperation. It seems that with development, the whole world has become much smaller, but the human consciousness is still lagging behind. We're not acknowledging this deep down. So we're out of sync with the basic reality. We're dealing in unreality and responding to it, and it's not going to work. That is not a question of religious practice, but a question for the future of humanity. Nice statement. This kind of wider or more altruistic attitude is very relevant in today's world. If we look at the situation from various angles, such as the complexity and interconnectedness of the nature of modern existence, then we will gradually notice a change in our outlook. So he's saying, and what is he doing? That's analysis. You think these things over and over again. You're analytically meditating. It may not be formal like this or yes, no, this or that. You think them over. It does affect you. And you find it more easy to understand the concept and then to actually live it. So when we say others and when we think of others, we will no longer dismiss them as something that is irrelevant to us. We will no longer feel indifferent. That's the ultimate path this is leading to. If you think only of yourself, if you forget the rights and well-being of others, or worse still, if you exploit others, ultimately you will lose. Now we can come out with, oh, you created bad karma, it's going to come back to you and all that. We can, but that's boring. Just let them stay with, let the words hang as they are. If you respect this only, you will have no friends who will show concern for your well-being. Moreover, if a tragedy befalls you, instead of feeling concerned, others might even secretly rejoice. Oh. By contrast, if an individual is compassionate and altruistic and has the interests of others in mind, then irrespective of whether that person knows a lot of people, wherever that person moves, he or she will still immediately make friends. And when that person faces a tragedy, there will be plenty of people who will come to help. He's sort of saying that your attitude, proper, will attract help. Looks like that. I mean, that's the idea I get from when you get something like that. If you are a certain person, there's sort of, since there's no vacuum that everybody lives in, this has to have an effect on others. There's subliminal things going on that show connection. Quantum entanglement. Someone said that in class once. I don't understand the concept of quantum entanglement, but it works. Alan Wallace talks a lot about things like that. Geshe Namdak, the Dutch monk who became a Geshe, he's very interested in science. He was a hydraulic engineer or something. And he converses with some of the best physicists, Carlo Rovelli, and they work on books and talks together. It's very interesting. He says very interesting a lot, by the way. You ever get a video of him? Very interesting, very interesting. I don't understand even what he's talking about, but he thinks it's interesting.
Very interesting.
He's so happy. A true friendship develops on the basis of genuine human affection, not money or power. Of course, due to your power or wealth, more people may approach you with big smiles and gifts. There's a Norwegian proverb that says everybody wants to give something to a rich person. Very good.
It's true.
Yeah. Someone gave someone a plane recently. Who did that? But deep down, these are not real friends of yours. They are friends of your wealth or power. They're friends of your wallet. As long as your fortune remains, then these people will often approach you. But when your fortunes decline, they will no longer be there. With this type of friend, nobody will make a sincere effort to help you if you need it. That's the reality. Good. Gavels that point down. Genuine human friendship is on the basis of human affection, irrespective of your position. Therefore, the more you show concern about the welfare and rights of others, the more you are a genuine friend. The more you remain open and sincere, then ultimately more benefits will come to you. If you forget or do not bother about others, then eventually you will lose your own benefit. There is so much interaction here, and on the emotional level too. So people who think of others, I don't think fall into depression or fall into a sense of helplessness or there's no answer. I don't think so. If they genuinely have run these ideas through their mind and more or less made them part of their being. So sometimes I tell people, if we really are selfish, then wise selfishness is much better than the selfishness of ignorance and narrow-mindedness. So he's saying the wise selfish person helps others because you're going to get something back. That's not their motivation, but the wise selfish person. I remember giving that speech live in Wisconsin in the basketball arena. We went there. When was that? It was a long time ago, 81. For Buddhist practitioners, the development of wisdom is also very important. So not only compassion, but now wisdom. And that leads us into the next book. And here I mean wisdom which realizes shunya, the ultimate nature of reality, emptiness, shunya. Shunya actually means zero in Sanskrit. So it's not good to emphasize that meaning because people then think nihilism. But the concept of zero is what makes Indian mathematics, the centerpiece of that science. It wasn't around in other systems. People say it's Arabic. No, it's actually Indian where that happened. And the numbers, they say Arabic numbers, they're Indian numbers, 7 and stuff like that. But that's another topic. If you're interested in this, there's a book called The Golden Road that talks about how a lot of the civilizations benefit from India a long time ago. They were the world's first long-distance sailors. They ran regular trips back around, to Europe and all these places. Rome spent all day. They were complaining, some of the politicians in Rome, that money is going out to India for spice and all the things that they have there that we don't have. And we're depleting our national coffers. It's like today with China. So, let's see. The realization of shunya, or emptiness, gives you at least some kind of positive sense about cessation. In other words, the end of all this crap. Cessation. One of the noble truths. Once you have some kind of feeling for the possibility of cessation, then it becomes clear that suffering is not final and that there is an alternative. Boom, the big explosion. You don't have to live the way you do. You don't have to accept what you think is reality because we think is. So that's a big point. If there is an alternative, then it's worth making an effort. Even if you think there's an alternative, at least investigate. What? What? You know, if only two of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths exist, suffering and the cause of suffering, there's not much meaning. But the other two Noble Truths, including cessation, point toward an alternative way of existence. That's it. There is possibility of ending suffering. So it is worthwhile to realize the nature of suffering. So you can end it, not so you can wallow in it. Therefore, wisdom is extremely important in increasing compassion infinitely. So here is this connection between wisdom and compassion, which we think of as opposite poles or the two wings you need to fly to enlightenment. Yeah, but the two wings are connected to one body. So that is, we shouldn't be so hard and fast. And I'm studying this, I'm studying this. Yes, they will inform each other, embellish each other. So if you want to increase compassion infinitely, wisdom is an important component. So, that is how one engages in the practice of Buddhism. There is an application of the faculty of wisdom, using intelligence, and an understanding of the nature of reality, together with the skillful means of generating compassion. Mixed together. And they always do this sometimes. Sometimes male-female represents one and the other. Wisdom is female method or compassion is male. And in all the rituals, they go like this to show they're connected, the embrace. They take the bell and the dorje and go like this. So that's very important. That's tantric way of presenting things. Cessation. So that is how one engages in these practices, using intelligence, etc., and so forth. I think that in your daily lives and in all sorts of your professional work, you can use this compassionate motivation. Would that would happen? No. Especially at the traffic court. It would be very... So, of course, in the field of education, there is no doubt that compassionate motivation is important and relevant. Irrespective of whether you are a believer or non-believer, compassion for the students' lives or futures, not only for their examinations, make your work as a teacher much more effective. With that motivation, I think your students will remember you for the whole of their lives. A really good teacher, we do remember how nice they were, how they did this or that. The rest of them were creeps, we wanted to throw them out the window, but a few were pretty good. How much of that was our attitude, and how much of that was thinking, we don't know. Similarly, in the field of health, oh yeah, there's the field of health, or non-health today. There is an expression in Tibetan which says that the effectiveness of the treatment depends on how warm-hearted the physician is. How warm-hearted the physician is. Because of this expression, when treatments from a certain doctor don't work, people blame the doctor's character. I love it. You got it. I think they really do this too. We'll have to ask Tenzin. He's down with the crowd, the Tibetan, base. What's the base? That group. Speculate perhaps that he or she, the doctor, whoever, was not a kind person. So how could they cure anybody? That's a very nice way to look at things. How accurate, I don't know. The poor doctor sometimes gets a very bad name. So in the medical field, there's no doubt that compassion and motivation is something very relevant. Now I don't believe him. I'm sorry. I think this is also the case with lawyers and politicians. No, everybody does this. How? Let's see if we can make that point. If politicians and lawyers had more compassionate motivation, then there would be less scandal. Okay, probably. And as a result, the whole community would get more peace. Abstain! I think the work of politics will become more effective and more respected. He does talk a lot about politicians. In the morning, do this with Shiva, and in the afternoon, do this with the fire, taking bribes. Finally, in my view, the worst thing is warfare. But even warfare with human affection and with human compassion is much less destructive. The completely mechanized warfare that is without human feeling is worse. And this was 95. There was no mass drone attacks. There was, very, sophisticated missiles at that time were just coming out with the cruise missiles. It's horrible now. I mean, you don't live anymore. You don't just get shot and go to the hospital. You're gone. Looks like, I think compassion and a sense of responsibility can also enter the fields of science and engineering. Of course, from a purely scientific point of view, awful weaponry such as nuclear bombs are remarkable achievements from a scientific point of view in one way. But we can say that these are negative because they bring immense suffering to the world. Therefore, if we do not take into account human pain, human feelings, and human compassion, there is no demarcation between right and wrong. Therefore, human compassion can reach everywhere. It's true, and he's trying to poke them and say, look what you're working on. Can you do this? One woman, a Vietnamese woman, she's one of the boat people, actually, very smart woman. She donated this Avalokiteshvara to us. Susan Doan, she was active with the Harvard Buddhist Center. They disbanded. So she was happy. We helped her present the Dalai Lama in New York twice. So she was happy to give us, she liked Darren a lot because he worked his tail off for her. So she gave us the altar upstairs in the monastery room and a few other things. So she got a job with this firm, and then she realized, she was an engineer, electrical engineer, that they were making guidance systems for missiles. She quit immediately, took a less paying job. And she had a family, she had 2 kids. It was good for her. And she was poor. She came here as a boat person. Very nice woman. I heard now she has what my wife had, rheumatoid arthritis, and that's not a funny disease. That's not a lot of laughs. Very painful. So we didn't see. Darren, have you heard from Susan lately, Doan?
No.
Me neither. Maybe Nikki reaches out to her once in a while. I'll ask him. Wonderful woman. But she took this to heart. Oh, I don't want to be part of that. And, when it hits your wallet, you really have to have a good, strong, moral compass. So she did. I find it a little bit difficult to apply this principle of compassion to the field of economics. Oh, he saves the best for last. But economists are human beings, and of course they also need human affection, without which they would suffer. You'd never know. However, if you think only of profit, irrespective of the consequences, then drug dealers are not wrong, because from the economic point of view, they're making tremendous profits. How's that for a good argument? Yeah, it's good business. But because this is very harmful society and for the community, we call this wrong and name these people criminals. They designate as criminals, Jeffrey Hopkins would say. If that is the case, then I think arms dealers are on the same category. The arms trade is equally dangerous and irresponsible and enormously profitable, unfortunately. Hey, who lives better lives? Some of these arms dealers and narco-terrorists, they do all right, They have villas. They own the jails that the guys are put in. I don't know. So I think for these reasons, human compassion, or what I sometimes call human affection, he's rewriting it. Let's see what time we have. This thing never responds to me anymore. We got 12 minutes, okay. Human affection is a key factor for all human business. Just as you see that with the palm of your hand, all 5 fingers become useful. If those fingers were not connected to the palm, they would be useless. Very folksy presentation. That's something like a presentation for illiterate people, so you can, and they go, to think that way. Similarly, every human action that is without human feeling becomes dangerous. With human feeling and an appreciation of human values, all human activities become constructive. That's like a very heavy theorem that he just laid out. If there's affection and that motivation, everything's constructive. I don't know. We can discuss all later. Even religion, which is supposedly good for humanity, without the basic human compassionate attitude, can become foul. Unfortunately, even now there are problems which are entirely down to different religions. So human compassion is something fundamental if that is there, then all other human activities become more useful. It's not that one religion has the lock. So he's saying, he often says, religion's in the mind, not in the temple, not in the house, in the mind. And I like that. I thought that it solved a lot of the problems. So he goes on and on. We have to do a little bit of the emptiness, just to introduce it. So we have like 8 minutes or so to do that. This is from the book we've been studying, walking through close, slowly. And this is page 151. After he discussed the drops and the, descending and going to the heart and then realizing emptiness, page 151. Understanding the Buddhist doctrine of emptiness is crucial to living and dying with realism and without fear. The reason. Okay, so his talk's motivating us. Why do we have to study it? There it is. Emptiness does not mean non-existence. You always have to point that out. Or sometimes they use the word void. That means, and that freaks people out. You might think that emptiness means nothingness, but it does not. What are phenomena empty of? What is not there in phenomena? So if it's a way of saying it, without understanding what is negated, without understanding what we're getting rid of, you cannot understand its absence or emptiness. Oh, so what are we getting rid of? What are we looking for? What does that thief look like? You got to know that first before you do it. And that's a hard thing to do. It gets refined. But look at it this way. Buddha frequently said that because all phenomena are dependently arisen, they are relative. Dependently arisen? Relative. What does that mean? Meaning their existence depends on causes and condition and not on their own parts. Not on their own thing as we see it. It's just there. We have this assumption that everything's there. And this is that, that's this, and that's claustrophobic if you carry it out. How can I change? There's nothing changeable now. And that's a reflexive view, automatic view of things. Yeah. My mouth is running too fast. Your body, for instance, does not exist independently. Rather, it depends on a great many causes, such as ovum and sperm, as well as food and water. It also depends upon its own parts, legs, arms, torso, and head. There are different levels of dependency, causes and conditions, parts in the whole, and dependent on a designating consciousness, the most subtle. So the boom, boom, boom. They say dependent, all that comes into play. And you have to become more familiar with this. It takes time. It's going to take me another life or 2 or 3 or 4, I don't know. But examine whether your body appearing as it exists in its own right is the same or different from your arms, legs, torso, and head. Is it? Is your mind separate from the thoughts in it? We can take it to a real subtle level now. We can really go crazy and get no sleep. I'll have a beer, please, thank you. If it does exist the way it appears, so concretely present, it should become clearer and clearer under the light of analyzing whether the body is any of its individual parts, or whether it is their sum, or whether it is something altogether different. All the possibilities. The closer you look, the more it is not found. So he's looking for inherent existence. That's how you go about emptiness. And you always hear him say, where is I? Where is I? And when we hear I, automatically it triggers the idea of inherent existence. What is that thing that the most inherent thing we have is me, my sense of being is wrong. Not that we're not being, but the way we think of it is wrong, that's all. And it causes friction. And suffering, of course. The closer you look, the more it is not found in any of these ways. This is the case for all phenomena. You, the table, whatever, The fact that you cannot find them under such analysis means that they do not exist under their own power. They exist, but they don't exist under their own power. They are not self-established. I like those words better than self-generated or something like that. They do not inherently exist. despite all appearances to the contrary. So we're faced with a big deal now. We don't even realize that we think things are inherently existent. No, that's the way things are. So now we have to introduce ourselves to this idea that so concretely the way things appear is wrong. That's not the way they really are. And that idea should help you, because it means when you start to see the non-inherent existence of things, you don't freak out. It was always that way. It's that we're projecting another reality. We stop projecting that, and all of a sudden, possibility of everything. Basically, getting rid of suffering. That's the whole idea. So I think we have gotten rid of our time. No, we have another minute or two. This does not mean that sentient beings and things do not exist. Rather, they do not exist the way they appear, so concretely exist. When you analyze and meditate well, you will understand the harmony between the actual appearance of persons and things and their emptiness of inherent existence. It's not that, what I say is all totally wrong. No, there's commonality there between its ultimate being and the way it appears. So you can't go to either extreme. That takes thinking and analysis and stuff like that. But words like this help us. His writing, he's the best, as far as, for me anyway. Without such understanding of emptiness and appearance, they seem to prohibit each other. They are complementary. They're not contradictory, as one of the prayers says, May I understand these things to be complementary and not contradictory, which is Nagarjuna's thought. The prayer says that. But I come to realize Nagarjuna's thought. In fact, they couldn't appear if they were inherently existent the way they do. They couldn't work together. If emptiness doesn't exist, nothing exists. Because emptiness exists, everything exists. So that is the crux of it. And to spend your time on that is worth it, they say, because it eliminates suffering. All phenomena, this next paragraph, and we'll stop at this, all phenomena, causes and effects, agents and actions, good and bad, merely exist conventionally. They are dependent arisings. Jung would say merely exist as nominations. We tag it. That's it. They are dependent arising because for the most subtle dependency to designating consciousness. So that's it. Because phenomena depend on other factors for their existence, they're not independent. All right, I got it. This absence of independence or emptiness of inherent existence is their ultimate truth. Comprehending this is wisdom. The court will adjourn for today. Your homework class is to realize emptiness and come back a full Buddha. Okay. No, all of us. Nobody can't load up too much of this at once because it needs thought. It needs to read it, put it aside, come back next week, read it again. You see how much these things start or have been bubbling underneath. And you go, well, no, yeah. Sometimes you read something and you made notes on it 2 years ago, and it looks like you're just understanding it now. Strange the way it is. I can't rely on my mind. What else are we going to rely on? Darren, has anyone not passed away today? We got some names. The names of the Marie Duke and Donald Peck. These famous people, Darren? I don't know. No. Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, let's all the others who've passed away, Darfur, the Congo, we can go on and on, Ukraine, Minneapolis. We're saying the Sutra of the Recollection of the Three Jewels. Before I do that, with Tibetan, I think I announced it before, but we will have a medicine Buddha Tanka is now going to be unveiled in the Tibetan as a tribute to Ling Rinpoche. And for Chungla Rinpoche, who initiated that practice, so now we have our own medicine Buddha Tanka, which we'll put in the main gathering area here. That sometimes it's a dining room, sometimes a hangout room, or whatever. Who knows? And there was a one-page sadhana that Chungla Rinpoche wrote, very quick, Because there's a longer one, like 12 pages, but people who really like those practitioners of old practitioners, they'll like that. But everybody else will mind to go all over the place. They wouldn't understand. So he did a short, and we used to do it every Thursday night on Broadway and in 31st Street in our oldest centers. So I got to find that. It's around somewhere. I know I have several copies. And we'll have it around that people could take home. It takes 3 minutes, one side of a page. And depending on how many mantras you say, Bekaze, Bekaze, Ma, Bekaze, that one, that mantra, maybe you've heard it before. It works. So, the Rinpoche prescribed that. For me, when I thought I had cancer, and turns out the tumors or the little growths were benign. They call them lesions now. So, who knows? So anyway, that's that. I want to announce that. So, and we will have maybe you can come here and practice and maybe be healed by the tongue. I don't know. You heal yourself. But whatever. It's something new in the Tibet Center. And hopefully we'll ask someone to initiate us. Those of you who haven't been initiated. It's a short ceremony, 40 minutes or whatever. And we'll rent a place and have an initiation be given by a good Lama, High Lama. We have a few in mind. So let's see. And we'll see what Nikki says, because he's the one who'll get him here. So Sutra Recollection Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavat, Tathagata, Arahat, Samyak Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strengths cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He's not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma, which is taught by the Bhagavat, is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction. It is pithy. It is trustworthy and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the great Yana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. So now turn to the 8 verses for training the mind. The old Kadampa, one of the Kadampa prayers that we say all the time. You found it? With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings, who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others, out of jealousy, treat me badly, with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I had benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. And the final prayer is a prayer for a swift return of Rato Chola Rinpoche, written by His Holiness Dalai Lama. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lozang Tubuang Dorje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the Victor Lozang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests in unsurpassed great awakening. Yet you have withdrawn the activity of that form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the Bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you, till cyclic existence's end, to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings and wish-fulfilling jewel. Return as the glory of Losang Tempe, magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Sri Mata Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors. May you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. With regard to the medicine Buddha and all these practices, Sankapa studied to be a doctor also. And one of us said, well, why are you worrying about studying to be a doctor? The Dharma is more important than others. And he said, well, if you get sick, you'll see how important studying to be a doctor is. So now we have this tanka, so when you're ill, you can come here, even when you feel good. That's it. That concludes tonight's program. The next Dharma event will be 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon right here in South Orange at the Parsonage, the White Terrace Sadhana, after which we have a nice buffet lunch. A lot vegetarian, some non-vegetarian. We try to please The following week, the usual nighttime Dharma classes, 7 o'clock in New York City at 151 West 30th, the rock throw, or if you're doing that, or tomato throw, the Madison Square Garden. We're right by Penn Station, Madison Square there. And then next Wednesday night, right here again in South Orange, at the Parsonage. The instructions and the particulars about all these things are on our website, thetibetcenter.org. So thanks for your patient listening. Big love to all of you.